Hi there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is Alan. I love traveling. I love roaming around in nature, but I have been noticing that our world is getting extremely dirty and polluted thanks to, well, us. And I feel like things are just getting worse. Imagine a day when we'll no longer be able to camp in the woods without stepping on plastic bags and glass bottles. Imagine a day when we can no longer swim in the ocean because it's covered in oil and chemicals. Imagine a day when our air is so polluted we'll have to have air filters in our house to keep out all those toxins. That would be a terrible thing, or your average metropolitan city in China. But that's why I understand why people get passionate about the environment. I respect people who campaign about lowering carbon emissions and spend their weekends picking up trash, and I think it's great we're trying to help and save endangered species. Well, at least just the cute ones. But every now and then I talk to an environmentalist and they really scare me when they start telling me about how the world would be better if humans were erased from the equation. Sometimes when people get too absorbed in a cause, they forget about everything else. They become extreme and in some cases even evil, which is what I want to talk to you guys about today. 5 times environmentalists were the bad guys.
Captain Planet, stop right now! My heart, it hurts.
The main bad guy in Kingston is a man named Richmond Ballentine. He's your classic psychopath CEO, too smart for his own good and too willing to do whatever it takes to fulfill whatever his ego is telling him to do at the time. He realized that the world was becoming overpopulated and humanity was causing all sorts of environmental problems, including global warming. He tried to use his political and financial powers to change the world, but at the end of the day, even with his considerable influence, he couldn't really do much. Ballentine realized he had to take things into his own hands. Through his company Ballentine Corporation, he distributed free SIM cards to the entire world, which secretly could emit a signal that made humans crazy and extremely violent. Ballentine's idea was to trigger all the SIM cards simultaneously and have everyone in the world kill each other, therefore solving the whole overpopulation problem in a very Thanos-like nature. In reality, what this actually does is cull all the physically weakest individuals who can't fight, and what's left of humanity will be made up of extremely capable martial artists. In the Hellboy universe, the human and elves went to war a long time ago, and after several devastating battles, the humans and elves created a truce. The deal was humans would stay in their cities and the elves would remain in their woods, which is why I always recommend people hike with a friend. And by a friend, I mean an assault rifle, because you never know what kind of pointy-eared bastard is looking down at you from the tree canopy above. Anyway, the wise King Elf's son, Nada Silverlance, didn't trust the humans, because unlike the elves, we actually develop new technologies and expand our cities, instead of just frolicking around in the woods playing wooden instruments. The elf was jealous and angry of humanity's achievements. He was also pissed off that their territory was slowly disappearing. He decided that humanity needed to be destroyed, and in order to do so, he unleashes a gigantic army of golden steampunk robots. Not only is it not cool that Elf Boy wants to destroy humanity, he's also a bit silly if he thinks a couple hundred metal robots can take over the entire planet. Not only are there not enough of them, modern weapons would probably make short work of them. The Elf Prince lost his moral high ground when he decided to start indiscriminately killing everyone. After unleashing a gigantic murdering forest spirit, he even tries to appeal to Hellboy by claiming that it was the last of its species. Hellboy, being the wise guy he is, sees through the Elf Prince's BS and explodes the forest spirit's head, causing it to jizz magical spirit energy all over Lower Manhattan. It's a beautiful scene from a beautiful movie. Pamela Isley is your classic rich girl who attends a liberal arts college and then gets a degree in botany and then becomes an eco-terrorist. When she ingested a large amount of plant and animal toxin, which causes her to go crazy and then turns her into a supervillain known as Poison Ivy. No longer a shy, timid girl, Poison Ivy is now a very vivacious and curvaceous woman who could control plants and secrete toxins from her body. Poison Ivy would become one of Gotham's most ruthless villains and dedicated herself to eradicating humans that were poisoning the planet. But instead of catching them and rightfully turning them over to the police, she would just murder them. 28 Days Later was one of the most terrifying films I saw growing up. It was far more than just a zombie apocalypse movie. It introduced us to the concept of zombies that could run really fast. It also warned us about what could go wrong when environmentalists became too extreme and took the law into their own hands. The film begins in Cambridge, where scientists are testing a rage virus on chimpanzees. 3 animal liberation activists break into the lab, and despite desperate pleas from the scientists not to release the crazed animals, the environmentalists decide to do so anyway, which starts a chain of events that quickly spiral out of control into a full-on zombie apocalypse. 28 days later reminds the environmental activists and all of us to occasionally put the brakes on and analyze the situation before we act foolishly. As a rule, if you see a zombie monkey in a cage, set it on fire or shoot it. Don't open the cage and let the monkey attack you. The Navi were a primitive alien species living on the planet of Pandora. They were known for their warlike nature and tendency to mate with their animals and livestock by connecting their weird tentacle thingies together. When a group of peaceful human explorers stumble on their planet, they discover an untapped resource that was of little use to the primitive Navi people. The humans saw Pandora's energy source as a way to save Earth, which was suffering from an energy crisis and overpopulation. The Navi, who again were backwards and primitive, saw this encroachment on their land as a cause for war. More importantly, the mining of resources from their planet was against their religion. Eventually, these indifferences between the two sides led to full-out war between the Navi and the humans. And it's really sad if you think about it. If it weren't for the Navi's extreme environmental and religious views, humanity could have safely extracted the resources it needed to save the Earth. In return, humanity could have also helped the Navi, teach them about math and science, maybe introduce them to some life-saving medicines. Our world is a precious place, and we must protect its beauty. But in the pursuit of preserving our environment, we can't lose our humanity. Just because we have a good cause doesn't mean we're not held accountable for how we pursue that cause. Eco-terrorism and violence against your fellow man is never the answer. Such tactics should only be used against aliens, elves, robots, and other lesser beings. Hashtag humanity first. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and seriously, don't be an ass, don't pollute, pick up your litter. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like us on Facebook. Well guys, thanks for joining us today. My name is Alan, reminding you that life is a movie, and you are the protagonist.